Watch what you bet tonight as you watch that betting show. Duke versus Virginia Tech heading on the road. We've seen some line movement already in this one, Teddy. Opened up at 4, got to 4.5. Now settling back in at 3.5 and 143 as we take a look at Castle Coliseum. 7 p.m. ESPN tonight. If you watched on Saturday, as most of us did, really nice comeback winner in the Carrier Dome versus Syracuse. Now you get that quick turnaround, go back on the road. They're going to be excited. Always a target on your back for Duke. Zion, once again, going to miss his second straight game heading into this one in Blacksburg. Did they have enough in Blacksburg, Teddy? Because even when you have Zion out, there's still a lot of blue chippers, NBA talent on that Duke side. Still Virginia Tech banged up a little bit at guard. Did they have enough to get over the hump in this one?
I mean, more than banged up a little bit at guard. Virginia Tech lost their point guard, and they haven't been the same team since. I mean, it's really been ugly. I mean, you talk about Justin Robinson, and yeah, he's the one player who's been hurt. The guy who had the school career record for assists. And he's been out all of February. And you look at the guys who he was distributing to. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 27 of 86 shooting in February. That's 31%. And Ahmad Hill, a similar decline for Virginia Tech. So what we've seen, the point guard's out, and the other guys aren't getting the ball in the position that they like to score, and that's a huge issue for Virginia Tech. And I know they beat Duke on this floor last year, 64-63. They beat Duke the last time they visited Blacksburg as well. But I don't trust this team without their point guard, and especially when you talk about Kerry Blackshear, who's now facing NBA caliber frontline talent. And Blackshear, Virginia Tech's best player, still having issues with foul trouble. If he gets into foul trouble tonight, it's going to be a long night for the Hokies. Duke or pass for this better.
We'll head down the Tobacco Road here, Dean E. Smith Center, 9 p.m. Eastern, ACC Network. Syracuse going to take on UNC. Line spiked a little bit early this morning, Teddy. 12.5, maybe even some 13s out there. Looks like it's peeled back and settled in at the time we're filming this at 11. 148 as the total. We saw again, dealing with the same thing that we had with the Duke game. You had that big emotional game at home. You want to beat the Duke Blue Devils. You take a loss. Doesn't get any easier going down on the road because if you look at the last 2 games that North Carolina has played, I mean, they've won 3 in a row since that loss to Virginia. But you're looking at a really athletic Florida State team that they beat up, a really athletic Duke team that they beat up. Now you're going to get another shot at this one. If the 3 ball is falling down and you can shoot over the Syracuse zone, which North Carolina can do, even though they didn't do against Duke in a 2-for-20 effort, it should be an interesting one. But then again, you're not asking just to win the game. Can Syracuse, Teddy, hang around within double digits and get this cover?
Syracuse has not fared well against Roy Williams and the Tar Heels. When we look at how the various teams match up against Boeheim's 2-3 zone, Carolina's been able to handle that zone on a consistent basis. The Orange won the first time these teams met when they joined the ACC. They haven't won since. That was back in 2014, the lone Syracuse victory. And you talked about the game plan for North Carolina. You think, what do you want to do against the zone? Well, you need the perimeter shooting against the zone. Carolina, did that last year in beating Notre Dame. Theo Pinson hit 8 3-pointers. But one of the things this Tar Heels team's been doing effectively is penetrating, getting into the paint. Nasser Little had a couple of nice buckets driving into the lane against the Orange over the weekend. No surprise if he's going to be able to, against whoever they played over the weekend. No surprise if he's going to have success doing that against Syracuse tonight. I think there'll be lots of opportunities for Nasser Little this evening. Kobe White, the Frost facing this matchup zone for the first time may be difficult, but North Carolina is a class here. Don't love the spot, but if I'm playing, I'm laying with the Tar Heels. They are the better of these 2 teams by a fairly wide margin.
Yeah, total also getting a little bit of a rise there, Tody. Looks like 146, 145.5 offshore, now sitting at about 148. We'll see if that concurs. We'll head over to the association. We'll head up north of the border. Celtics and the Raptors renew the rivalry. Raptors -4, total 226. Moneyline split +144, -165. Boston, Teddy, 30-29-1 against the spread in all line gains this year, but 22-16-1 versus the Eastern Conference. The Raptors been a little bit of money burners, 26-33-2 overall. And how about as a favorite, Teddy? 19-28-2. Come on, Kawhi. What do we see tonight?
Yeah, and I mean, Boston, the Raptors have been bad favorites. The Celtics have been bad underdogs. which is very different from what we saw from this team in each of the previous 2 seasons where they've been great dogs. That hasn't been the case this year. I think they have 2 covers as dogs of more than 2.5 points all season. It hasn't been pretty in that regard. Both teams coming off losses. Toronto, well, Kawhi didn't play. The effort was there, et cetera, et cetera. They weren't happy with the loss, but they certainly weren't ripping each other like the way Boston was after the Celtics no-showed in Chicago on the heels of that 1-point loss to Milwaukee coming out of the All-Star break. So it's back-to-back defeats for Boston, but getting blown out against the Bulls, not what the Celtics were looking for. Brad Stevens, I've said this before, I'm disappointed in myself. Marcus Smart, each and every game becomes closer and closer to the end for us, and we haven't been playing to the best of our ability. It's frustrating because we know the potential that we have. It was embarrassing. Boston, embarrassed. That's not a spot where I'm looking to bet against the Celtics in their next game, despite the fact that this is a circle the wagons game for Toronto. Is Boston or pass for this better? I believe the Celtics more than I believe Nick Nurse and company for the Raptors this year. When all said and done, I do think Boston will be the better of these 2 teams.